Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, and thank you for attending this informative session in which we will all learn about the Europe Colorado study program. It's a very interesting and very, I would say, top opportunity that you may have to attend the University of Colorado, especially in Boulder. And for this, we have today with us Professor Davis. He is Dean Emeritus of the School of Engineering, professional, School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and the director of this specific program, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Britta Bernstrom, she's a professional senior researcher, and she's the coordinator of many programs, and also this one as well. So I would like to ask you all to listen very carefully to what they have to say about the program, the university, ask anything, any question you may have, and enjoy the presentation. So thank you very much both for coming down to Barcelona, and the floor is yours.
Great, thank you very much. I'll talk part of the time, and Britta will talk part of the time. We'll go back and forth. There'll be time at the end for questions, but if you want to interrupt, that's okay too. But let me start by getting to know you a little bit. How many of you are doing a master's program now, master's degree? And how many are doing an undergraduate or bachelor's degree? Most of the rest. Okay. How many are from this school here, from FIB or computer science, informatics? Maybe a third. Anybody from telecommunications? Maybe a quarter. And how about Camines or civil engineering? The rest? Did I miss anybody? Anybody from something different? Okay, well that sounds good. We'll try and address your needs. Let me ask you one more question at least. How many have been to the United States? Oh, more than half. How many have been to Colorado? Where have you been? Denver. Just through the airport, or did you get out?
No, I lived there for a year.
Oh, fantastic. So, hence the good English, right? Yeah, wonderful. So, not been to Boulder?
Yeah, well, I was there a couple of times. Oh. I was very small, so I don't remember it.
Okay, well, we'll show you some pictures that might help a little bit. Okay, so this is actually a photo of Boulder. That's obviously the American football stadium for the University of Colorado. All of the buildings with the sandstone and then the red roofs, they look actually Spanish. That's the university. And then in the trees in the background, that's where many of the houses are, where people live in Boulder. And then the mountains behind Boulder are called the Flatirons, and you'll see some more pictures of them. They're the low mountains, and then behind the low mountains are the large mountains, the Rocky Mountains, and they're the ones with snow on the top. And if you look in the very top right, you'll see a little bit of the Rocky Mountains. Give you a little bit of idea in terms of elevation. Boulder is about 1,700 meters in elevation, so it's pretty high up. The Flatirons are maybe 2,500 meters in elevation, and the Rocky Mountains, which is the top of the United States, is about 4,500 meters, so they're quite tall, okay? And let's advance the slide. So I think you know the geography, but Spain is that Iberian Peninsula over here on the right, and Boulder is in the middle of the United States. Most people who go to the United States do not go to Colorado. They go to either New York on the East Coast or San Francisco on the West Coast, but we're in the middle, and the brown area to the left of Boulder is the mountain region, the Rocky Mountains, and then Boulder is right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains. And to the east of Boulder is the Great Plains of Kansas and Nebraska and Iowa and so forth. Next slide. And we're going to talk today about two opportunities that we hope will interest you. The first one is a mobility program. That's a short-term program where you come for 4 to 6 months, usually in the final semester, either of your master's program or of your bachelor's program, and you come and do your thesis or project. You do a research project at the university. And the other program is graduate study. And there we emphasize the PhD degree. And it's a much longer program, 4 or 5 years, and you would continue in research. Usually that's a big consideration for students to go away from home for 4 or 5 years. So that's why it's actually best to do both programs. Come for the mobility, and you'll find if you like it or not, and if you want to come back for a longer period of time. So do either or both. And a little bit of background, this whole program started with this man here on the left, Pete Balcells. Pete was born here in Barcelona, 1928. And when he was 18 years old, he went to the United States. This was during the Franco regime. And he studied at the University of Colorado. And he studied mechanical engineering. And he met an American woman who was his study partner, and she became his wife, and she studied aerospace engineering, which was very closely related. And the two of them got married. And they stayed in the United States. They formed a company called Balcells Engineering, a little bit of a play on their last name. And it made spring-loaded Teflon seals that appear in medical equipment, automobiles, oil drilling equipment, and so forth. And so it's not a product that you would ever see because it's embedded, but it's an important company that has more than 500 employees with a headquarters in California and a manufacturing facility in Colorado. And when Pete's wife passed away, which was 1995, he decided to give some of the proceeds of the company to start the Balcells Fellowship. And that was first at University of California, Irvine, which was near his company headquarters where he lived. And then he added, about 10 years later, the University of Colorado, which is near his manufacturing facility, but is his alma mater where he went to school. And Britta will give you a little bit of numbers of how many students have come for the Balcells Fellowship. It was originally only for Catalan students, but we've now expanded the program to something called the Europe Colorado program, and that's for any student who's studying in Europe. So it could be Spain, it could be one of the other countries of Europe, and it can even include students who are not of European origin, but who have come to Europe in order to do their studies. For a while, it was funded by the Generalitat as well as the Balcells Foundation. But Pete passed away in 2022. He sold his company 2 years before he passed away. And so that particular funding has ended, but the University of Colorado is still funding the program just in a different form. And I think the University of California, Irvine as well, still has a Balcells program that is funded by the university. All right. Britta's going to talk to you a little bit about Boulder.
Yeah, so I am not originally from Boulder. I'm from a town about 30 minutes outside of Boulder, but moved to Boulder when I turned 18 to get my bachelor's degree in civil engineering, and then I stayed and did my master's degree in civil engineering. So I ended up living in Boulder for about 8 years, and I can tell you from personal experience, it's an amazing town to live in. It's home to about 100,000 people. About 1/3 of that population is the student population. So it makes for a really young, fun, college-like atmosphere. It's seated, as Professor Davis mentioned, right at the foothills, at the base of those smaller mountains. And so you have really this outdoor playground in your backyard at all times that a lot of students and just residents of Boulder take advantage of biking and hiking and climbing. You have to drive a little bit further away to go skiing, but the closest resort is about 45 minutes away if you are a skier or a snowboarder. And there's 300 days of sunshine a year to be able to take advantage of all of those outdoors activities, which is really amazing. If you're not as much of an outdoors person, there's also plenty of things to do inside, I guess you could say. There's a walking mall that's really lovely to walk up and down and check out the different shops and the bars and such. And if you're looking for a little bit more of a lively nightlife, nothing like Barcelona, but Denver is the capital city. It's about 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away in bus or car. And so you can go down to the capital city of Colorado to check that out as well. Here's a couple photos to show kind of the duality of Colorado. I mentioned those 300 days of sunshine a year. That often includes right after a day that it snows. So it'll snow one day and then be completely sunny the next day, and you'll see people out snowshoeing or hiking or playing around in the snow, which is super fun. And then here's a photo on the left in the middle of the summer. And these mountains right here, those are called the Flatirons, and you can see this view, this beautiful vista almost anywhere in Boulder. They actually have regulations where they're not allowed to build the buildings high enough so that you can't see them, so that makes Boulder a wonderful place to live as well. For the Europe Colorado program itself, we host a few community events each semester, kind of to just try and build that community and get the cohort all together. We often have a welcome hike in the fall, so that's what these two photos on the left are. The one that's on the bottom I took about a year ago. We went on a welcome hike, and like I said, I had lived in Boulder for 8 years and never saw a bear, but in the first week of these students' stay in Colorado, we went on a hike and they saw a bear. So this is a photo of all of them taking a photo of a bear. It was a small bear and it was far away, so it wasn't scary. And then on the right is a dinner that we had and often have at Professor Davis's home as our welcome event in February. So students often come either the fall semester or the spring semester, although you're not restricted to go to those semesters. You can come, we have students come from October to April, for example. But those are some examples of the events that we do together. As for the university itself, it was founded in 1876. It's pretty old for the United States. I know not very old for here. It is home to almost 39,000 students. That includes both the graduate students and the undergraduate students. And we boast 5 Nobel Prize winners. We have 8 different schools and colleges. As a part of this program, you would be in the College of Engineering and Applied Science. Our College of Engineering is quite good. We're ranked top of the entire Rocky Mountain region, so those brown mountains that Professor Davis showed on that first map of the world, those are the Rocky Mountains, and so we are the top engineering college within that region. And we have 12 different departments and programs. We'll talk about kind of the specifics of each of those programs in a little bit, but all in all, our College of Engineering student population is about 9,500 students, so quite a big department or College of Engineering. So Professor Davis is going to talk about some of the specifics about the different programs and departments that you might want to be involved in.
Yeah, so this is just a little bit more about the College of Engineering, which is the program that sponsors the program that we're offering, or the college that sponsors the program. It's engineering and applied science, and so that means it's all disciplines of engineering and also computer sciences within our college. And we're particularly strong in aerospace, and we'll go up to Terrassa tomorrow and talk to the aerospace students. We're strong in computing. We're strong in energy and environmental sustainability, and these are both improved uses of fossil fuels, but also a lot of work on renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, some biomass conversion as well. A pretty strong program in biotechnology and health, biomedical engineering, and then an emphasis in materials. And in particular, our emphasis in materials is more soft materials like polymers, but there is some people doing work on concrete that are related to civil structures, and also smart materials that can respond to the environment as well. And there's about 300 engineering colleges in the United States, and several of our programs are ranked in the top 10, and that does include civil engineering. That would be of interest to you, and environmental engineering is also within our college, and that's a really important program. Those of you who are in computing or electrical engineering or telecommunications, those programs are ranked in about the top 20, so they're still in the top 10% of engineering programs in the United States. I'll say one more thing, and that is we have very strong ties to industry, both in Colorado and across America. And we have very strong ties to national labs, and these are laboratories that focus on research. There's 6 of them in Colorado alone, Some of the better known ones are the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, the National Institutes of Standard and Technology, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, and so forth. We can skip this one. This is actually my department, but there's nobody here on the North Campus in chemical engineering, so we'll skip that one. And we'll skip aerospace. So in one department, we have civil, environmental, and architectural engineering, and that includes all the subdisciplines like geotechnical engineering and structures and so forth. And you can see there's over 600 students at the undergraduate level, almost 200 at the graduate level. Not quite an even mix of male and female students. And in terms of the PhD program, if you were to come back for graduate study, you can get a degree in any of those fields. And then there's research areas that cover most of civil engineering and chemenes that you see here. Maybe one that I'll emphasize is in the bottom right, we have a very strong program in humanitarian engineering. Do you all know Engineers Without Borders? Is that something that's in Spain? So Engineers Without Borders is both a US movement and a national movement, international movement. There's over 200 student chapters of Engineers Without Borders, and they do humanitarian engineering projects in the developing world. And it all started in Boulder with one of the professors at the University of Colorado. All right, next. So a little bit more about computer science. It's a huge department, very popular in the United States, over 1,500 undergraduates, over 1,000 graduate students. That includes what we call the professional master's students who are not doing research, but they're getting a professional degree. And they have strengths in artificial intelligence, computational biology, programming languages, systems and networking, and then fairly new is robotics, and the robotics program is both within computer science and within electrical engineering, so sort of the software and the hardware aspects, and then even mechanical engineering, as you can imagine. And it's a little bit male dominated, so we're working on changing that, hopefully. So, and then electrical engineering, electrical computer and energy engineering is the name of the department. It's what you would call telecommunications probably, even though we separately have a telecommunications program, but this is the department that is most close. And there's, again, pretty big department with over 600 undergraduates, over 600 graduate students, and strengths in all of these fields here. Power electronics is particularly strong. Quantum engineering is fairly new, but is growing rapidly. Optics and photonics, both within electrical engineering and in our Department of Physics, which is in a different college, are very strong. Electromagnetics, which I think we misspelled probably, and computer engineering are all within that department as well. So that's a really good opportunity. And where are we next? We'll skip mechanical engineering because that's across the street. So I'm going to just say a little bit more about the two programs that I started with, and that is the short-term program and the long-term program. Short-term program is the mobility program, and it's for either undergraduates or master's students, usually in their final year, and they come and do their final project or their final thesis. It takes typically 4 to 6 months. Students most commonly either come in about July or August and stay until December, or they come in about February and stay until June. And either choice is fine with us. And we provide some partial funding, $6,250 for living expenses. That's calculated as $1,250 per month for 5 months, so it's about 1,100 euros. It's not quite enough to live in the United States as a student. You probably need to supplement that by a few $100s, maybe from your family or personal savings, or sometimes you can get scholarships from here, but it will pay most of your way. And starting this year, we're also helping students with visas. Visas has become more costly, both in terms of the money that you'd have to spend to get a visa, but also we work with students to apply a little bit earlier because it takes a little bit longer to get a visa. But students from Europe don't have any problem getting a visa, and in fact that's true of most countries, but unfortunately there's a few countries where the US has limited the visa opportunities. And the basic idea is that you would do research. And so it's not taking classes, it's doing research. And you know, partly is to satisfy your requirements here. So usually you stay enrolled and get credits here for your research, for your thesis or final project, and then we help provide an evaluation of that. But it's also so that you can determine, is research something you like to do, and is, in particular, research at the University of Colorado exciting to you, and you want to come back. And Britta will show some statistics, but you'll see somewhere on the order of half the students come back, okay? And an important thing is that you would need to apply by March for the next year. So if you wanted to start in September, let's say August 2026, you'd need to apply by March 2026. If you wanted to start in February 2027, you would need to apply in March 2026. And so you do need to plan ahead. And it's a competitive program where we have limited spots. We can support about 15 students, and we typically have 30 or 40 apply. And so you do need to take your application seriously and help get it in on time. And there's more information on this website, but we'll also hand out a little sticker that has a QR code that you can use as well. Have you already done that, or? Not yet. Yeah, so we'll do that at the end. Next slide. So this is the longer program, and you can do the mobility first and then a year later come back for the graduate study, or you can come directly for graduate study. And we emphasize the PhD degree in the United States. I'll say a little bit more about that. But if you want to get funding, the funding is in the form of research and teaching assistantships, and that's for the PhD students. It's very hard to get if you're just doing a master's degree. It takes 4 or 5 years, and you can either come with a master's degree already, then it takes less, maybe 3 or 4 years, or you can come for the PhD program, but then get a master's degree on the way, and that's perfectly fine. And that's what most students do in the US. You take courses your first year, year and a half, and then once you finish your courses, you do more and more research, and you end up spending about 3 years focusing on a research project and become an expert in your particular field and probably publish some scientific journal articles and get your PhD degree. Now, a big difference is that in the United States, many students do a PhD and then go to industry. In Europe, it's a little more common if you do a PhD that you go into academia, and that's the most common route. But in my department, for example, the majority of students who do a PhD degree then go to work in industry. And we didn't write it down here, but I'm gonna mention the salaries. Right now, they're very good. They're over $100,000 per year if you have a PhD and you go and work in the engineering or computer science industry in the US. So many of the European students take advantage of something called optional practical training that gives them 2 years to work in the US after their studies are done, and they work in industry. Then about a quarter of our students go to work in government labs, like the National Renewable Energy Lab that I mentioned, and the rest, the smaller number, go into academia and become professors. The bottom part is probably what's most interesting to you, and that is students seeking a PhD can get supported as a teaching assistant or a research assistant, and that will be part of the offer if we make an admission offer to you. And those pay quite well, more than $3,000 a month. In fact, I think now they're more than 3,000 euros a month. They're about $40,000 a year. And that's more than enough to live on and have a nice apartment and eat food that's not just top ramen or something like that, and even have a car. So I'm embarrassed to say, but many of our graduate students have much nicer cars than I do, okay? And it also, the assistantship pays for your tuition, which is expensive in the United States, so you do not have to pay that, and it pays your health insurance. And then we have a little bit of money left from the Balcells program, so if it's a student from Catalonia, we can then pay airfare for a couple of years to help you come to the United States and then go back home for Christmas. All right. And Britta's going to talk a little bit more about the students and the program.
Great. So over the course of many years, we've had about 69, well, I'll start with the mobility. We've had about 129 mobility fellows come through our program for short-term stays, and then about 69 master's and PhD fellows. So most of those students are, or most of the master's and PhD students are folks that did our mobility project, or did a mobility project with us, kind of got a little bit of a taste test to see if they'd like the program, and then decided to come back for their PhD. Here's some photos throughout the years. On the top right there, we had a paellada, and some of the students made paella in Professor Davis's backyard. On the bottom right, there was a Sant Jordi celebration that we had on campus. And we've had students come from all of these countries represented, but as Professor Davis mentioned, most do come from Spain just because of our history in this region. So I want to talk about a few specific students so you can start to get kind of in your mind, kind of picture yourself potentially in Colorado. So this is Aoife. Aoife's from Ireland originally and did her bachelor's in Dublin in electrical engineering, and moved to Zurich afterwards to work on her master's, also in electrical, and found us when she was looking for opportunities to do her master's thesis. And she was actually one of our very first Europe Colorado students after we had expanded to the Europe Colorado program. And so she came in fall of 2020 to do her master's thesis. So if you remember anything about 2020, it was kind of a crazy time, and there wasn't a lot of socializing going on or anything like that. Yet Aoife completely fell in love with Colorado and decided to come back and do her PhD. So she actually just finished her PhD in electrical engineering. She was in our electrical, computer, and energy engineering department. She finished in May 2025. She had been studying wind turbines for her PhD, and ended up getting awarded a fellowship at Stanford, and so is currently working at Stanford on a wind energy startup that she co-founded. So some pretty amazing things coming out of the Europe Colorado program. I'll do Maria, and then, okay. So this is Maria. She got her bachelor's at UPV in Valencia in biomedical engineering, and she came and did her TFG in the spring of 2024. And so she fell in love with Colorado, as a lot of people do, and decided to come back for her PhD in biomedical engineering. And she's a good example of a student who went directly from her bachelor's to a PhD program without having a master's, which is something that you can do in the United States. So she's currently studying biomedical engineering, her PhD in biomedical engineering at CU. And then this is Victor. Victor is another example of a student who did a bachelor's, went straight from his bachelor's to a PhD. So he was here, well, not here, in Colorado this past spring, working on his TFG. He loved the university, decided to come back for his PhD, and so he's currently studying his PhD in computer science on hardware acceleration for machine learning at CU, and has only been there for a couple months working on his PhD, but in my communications with him, he seems to really be enjoying it. Okay, well, I got one more student. I have a video to show y'all. So this is a student from UPC North as well, actually.
Em dic Josep Maria Fargas i benvinguts a Boulder, Colorado. Vaig arribar a Boulder, Colorado, el passat agost del 2015 per fer el treball final de grau. Quan passejo pel campus, em sento arropat pels Flatirons, que són les muntanyes a l'oest de la ciutat. La universitat, també coneguda com CU Boulder o simplement CU, és una universitat pública fundada el 1876, que abarca 30.000 estudiants i amb una extensió de 318 hectàrees. Els que estem a la Universitat de CU també se'ns coneix com Búfalos. Durant aquests 10 mesos he estat treballant al laboratori de nanofotònica liderat pel professor Milos Popovic. Aquí he estat treballant en òptica integrada on manipulem la llum per unes petites estructures de silici. La llum ve d'un làser i la fem arribar al xip mitjançant fibres òptiques. El meu rol al laboratori ha estat el de dissenyar petits acobladors de llum que permeten dividir la potència del xip en parts iguals i de manera molt precisa. La meva experiència està sent molt enriquidora i, a part de treballar, he tingut l'oportunitat d'explorar els Estats Units.
Yo que nunca he sido Sherpa, sé que coronar la cumbre cuesta y que un buen viaje nunca acaba cerca. Llevo de equipaje esta cabeza terca. Hoy me muevo por senderos nuevos que aún así me traen recuerdos viejos. La mente es un espejo, está encima de la mesa y se obceca al recordar el percal que no me interesa. Penas, penas, alegrías, alergias, sinergias de la energía, inercias que no terminan. Este es el juego del fuego y ser flamígero. Se exige lo mejor de nosotros, quema el oxígeno. Logré colar mi pico, la epístola en tu auricular y hablar con una díscola en un disco bar. Yo solo soy un terrícola, terrible y bipolar. Tenía pasión avícola y no conseguí volar, pero aún así aún me tiro. Si me despeño, al menos que sea poniendo empeño. Si me despierto, al menos que sea de un buen sueño. Si me la meto, al menos que sea enfrentando el reto como un hombre mirando al dragón a los ojos. Que si me lanzo al vacío, sea con los míos y con arrojo. Si te sonrojo, que sea con un piropo. Que si me topo contigo, te quedes un trecho. Porque de hecho, yo lo que quiero es que te guste.
In case you're wondering what that live buffalo was doing running across a football field, that's Ralphie, that's our mascot, and she runs across the football field for all of our home football games. So if you come in the fall and have the opportunity to go to a football game, our football team is all of a sudden really good, so would be worth going. Okay, I think now we're gonna open the floor for group questions. And I'll go ahead and repeat the question in the mic so that the recording catches it. And then afterwards, we can we'll stick around and individuals can come and ask us individual questions as well. So, any questions? Here, I can give this so I can hand out stickers too.
Yes. Yeah, so there's data science within our computer science department, and there's a degree, but there's also research into data science, so that's a possibility. Yes?
For the long-term program, is it mandatory to complete the PhD, or you can only do your master's?
So the question was whether it's mandatory to do a PhD, or can you only do the master's? So in principle, you can do a master's only. The problem is it's very difficult to get funding from the university to do a master's only, and so you might have to pay for it yourself, and it's expensive. But we have had students do that who had enough financial support to do that. Any other kind of general questions, and then like Britta said, we'll stop the formal presentation and the recording, and you can come up individually. Is anybody excited about the opportunity? Does anybody want to come to Boulder? Yeah? All the faculty want to come. All right, here's a question.
Has the recent situation with the universities in the United States affected somehow the Colorado University, Boulder University?
Yeah.
Do you expect that something would get better or worse in some?
I'm an optimist, so I expect better. There's been, I would say, a modest effect. So many of our PhD students are supported by research grants. Research grants come either from industry or the federal government. The President of the United States wanted to cut research funding in about half, but the Congress has not agreed with that, and they're still debating the final funding. We now expect there to be a cut, but maybe 10%, 20%. So it'll be a little bit more difficult to get a research assistantship, but we think it will still continue. And then it's difficult to get visas from some countries, but students from Europe should not have any problem. Another question?
What are the requirements to apply to this program other than just competing with the other students?
Yeah, so to apply for the mobility program, there'll be information on our website, but it's actually pretty easy. You email to Britta, you send in a statement of purpose, so maybe 2 pages about why you want to participate, what you want to do. You send in you call it a CV, a resume, and a copy of your transcripts, and then a letter from a faculty member or administrator here, and it's pretty straightforward. To apply for the master's or PhD program, you go through the official university channels, but it's very similar information that you would need to upload, but it would be a few more letters of recommendation, let's say. We do not require the general GRE, the general record exam anymore. In principle, we require an English exam, the TOEFL or the IELTS, but you can have an interview on Zoom with Britta, and then she can write a note to say that your English is sufficient and to waive that requirement. So that helps. Another question.
This might be on the website as well, but is there a minimum required for undergraduate?
So coming for the program and then hopefully being interested in coming back for the PhD, it's usually students who are in the top portion of their class, maybe the top 20 or 25% of their class. We are aware of what the GPA in Spain is. It's usually on a 10-point scale, and we help evaluate those grades. So yeah. Yes.
So if you're doing the mobility program, is there a possibility to not do the final work on the DFG, just do some courses?
So it's not possible to do courses because that would require that you enroll in the university, pay tuition. So the mobility program is just to come do research. We don't require that it be part of your TFG or master's thesis, but usually you want to get that credit from your university. So most students do it to get that final credit. But on our end, we're happy with a student who comes to just do research. Yes? Well, you would get, if you're doing mobility, you would get your diploma from the university here, and the thesis research that you do in Colorado would be counted by your university here. And they may require that you make a presentation or that I or your faculty advisor writes a letter, but it would count towards your diploma here. You would not get a diploma from the United States. If you do the long-term program, you're getting the degree and the diploma from the United States. And at the master's level, I think you have to be careful because it might not qualify for professional licensure here. But I'm not the one who knows that detail. Do any of the faculty know?
So if you get the title here, then you're good. For the master is what we require, so it's fine. For the PhD, I don't know. I guess the PhD it's good enough.
Yeah, the students who get the PhD are well employable either here or in the United States. So yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my understanding is that it depends on your major, essentially. I think there's some that are valid back here in Spain, and there's some that aren't for the PhD. Yeah.
Maybe I can add to this. If you do the short program, you get your degree here,
Okay, just for those who are watching online, if you get the master's degree in the United States, you can still get it validated here in Spain, but there's a process for validating a foreign degree.
Especially if it has professional, let's say, competences.
Yeah, like in civil infrastructure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe we'll take one or two more group questions and then individual. Yes.
Once you finish the short program, how much time is necessary to start the PhD?
It varies. So some students, we've had students do the short program during February to August and apply and actually apply for a PhD before they even come. And then they come back home and get a different visa and come back within 1 month. Most commonly, they come back within 6 months or a year, but sometimes it's even 2 years. Yeah, it depends on the student. Yeah.
For the mobility fellowship, if I want to go to do like PhD at Boulder, do I need to, when I apply, do I need to state like the theme of the research I want to do, like, or is it, or I have to like get that with my university here?
Yeah, so the question was if applying for the mobility short-term program, does the student need to indicate what research that they want to do? So the answer is yes, that in your statement of purpose, you would describe broadly what research you want to do. And it actually helps if you've looked at our website and identified some particular faculty members that you think might interest you. But then if you pass the first round of our evaluation, then we will work with you to help find a faculty sponsor. Okay? Maybe, Ignacio?
So we'll dismiss in just a second, and like Professor Davis said, we can have people come up and ask individual questions. I did want to introduce one more person. Ezgi, will you raise your hand in the back there? That's Ezgi. She's coming in the spring through the Europe Colorado program, so she's gone through all the application process. So if you have questions about the application process from the student side, she said that she'd be happy to answer questions, so you can ask her questions as well. So, yeah. Yes, yes. This is recorded.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We would love to see a few of you come to Colorado. And if you have particular individual questions, come up and ask us. We'll stay here for some number of minutes to talk to you. So great. Have a great rest of your day.